Hey, what's up guys? My name is Ren. This is a tutorial for AETUS Plus. As you probably know, I'm just gonna do a few tutorials on some of the effects I made in my Elemental Combat video. And I thought, you know what? You guys probably would like to see how I made it. This is the first of 4, so I hope you're ready. Without further ado, here's the first tutorial, Electricity. Alright, so I'll go ahead and get into it. I have my footage here. It's about 1.5 seconds in length, so it's nothing too big. Just, you know, a quick zap to show that there's electricity going on in my sister's hands here. So we have our footage, and the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and just create a new solid, Control Y, and make it comp size, black, whatever. We're going to go over here to our Effects and Presets panel and type in Advanced. And it should be the only thing that you have that is Advanced. And right away we have our default settings here. It's just a lightning strike. But this isn't what we want. You see how there's a lot of forking going on? Because the electricity is arcing just between, say, her palm and her fingertips, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating, you don't really get much forking at that distance. Forking comes from, you know, over a large distance. So go ahead and for the first one, I'm going to go from the index finger to the palm, thumb area, and all the other ones after that. And this one right here will just be a two-way strike, and all the other ones will be just a one-way strike. So as you can see here, here's a two-way strike, and this is just a strike. So two-way strike, and for the settings, put the, first off, from the beginning, let's keyframe the conductivity state, very beginning at 0, and go to the end and put it, say something around 3. That way, it's always changing, even if the position isn't exactly changing. And this happens from time to time. Don't worry about it. If you just change it a little bit, it'll tend to go away. So for the core settings, let's set the radius to 3 and the core opacity at 75%, so that's all good. We'll move on to the glow settings. We want to move the glow radius down to 30 and then put the glow opacity up at 60. And this is a good color. You can go with this. This is, you know, the color of lightning. You can change it if you want. Move it down a little, make it a little bit more blue, perhaps. Something like that. And we are going to make it to where it's add transfer mode. Makes it blend well. Oh, and one more thing before we get too far into this. For this, the effect that you want for it to, you know, add properly, you're going to want to change your bit depth from 8 bits per channel to 16 bits per channel. And to linearize the workflow, change it to your working space to sRGB, and then hit linearize workspace. I do this a lot through my videos just because I like the way it looks. That's pretty much the only reason. It's just I like it. And you don't have to do it, but you can. So back to our effect. See, I put the alpha obstacle at 40, but I'm pretty sure I don't need to do that, but I'll stick with it. The turbulence I put up to 10. I believe that's maxed out. So 10. Forking, put that down to 0. And here we go. This is the essence of our effect right here. Alright, as you can see, this is, you know, got some arcing going on. Remember, I emphasized that it is not very fancy. You're not going to get a lot of, you know, Star Wars Force lightning kind of stuff. This is just a simple arc, and if you want, if you have a larger space, then you can increase the forking all you want. But the last thing I did was put the complexity up to 8, and under the fractal type, I put it under spline, so it gets a little crazy. Cool. So now, now that we have our settings, basically what we want them to be, we need to animate the beginning and end points of this strike. And like I said, I'm going to have the beginning of it just kind of track her index finger here. So go ahead and keyframe both the origin and direction. And since it is only 1.5 seconds in length, you only have about 36 or so frames, I just go ahead and hit page down twice. Let's go ahead and reveal all the keyframes by pressing U on the keyboard. And by pressing page down, you can skip between frames. So if I press it twice, I skip 2 frames in advance. And then I just, you know, move this to where I want it to be. Another 2 frames, track, another 2 frames, track. And this is just kind of how it goes. This is, you know, rotoscoping in a sense, keyframing. You just go along, and this is not exactly the fun part, but fortunately, because this is straightforward, it doesn't go by too slow. This is the kind of thing you do where you're listening to music, not really doing too much creative stuff or hard work stuff. It's just, straightforward. Yeah, see if I can recreate it. No, I guess not. I don't know why those circles pop up every now and then, but it does, and it's easy enough to get rid of it just by moving it slightly, changing some small variable when you can. So it's always good to check it when you're at the end of it. Let's move that somewhere. So, and I like when her thumb moves over like that. I like to have the lightning trace it. So we started about right here, and then by the time it's right here, I've moved the origin to the tip of her thumb. So it's kind of going along and then traces her thumb as it goes that way. And don't worry that this is all on top right now. That's all right. We'll fix that in a bit. So let's go along another 2 frames. Get your little cursor thing back. Another 2 frames. And just trace along. Until essentially you're at the end. And the origin, you don't have to change too much if you don't want to. It gets the purpose done. All right, so now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and duplicate this because we already have all the settings we want. So go ahead and hit U on the keyboard to bring up the keyframes and just click off both the direction and origin. This is a new one. Let's change it to just a regular strike, and this is going to be on, we could actually make the first one clear by making it, I can't think of the name for it. And so we're going to track the middle finger now. And let's remember to reactivate the keyframes. I've done that so many times where I turn them off and I go frame by frame, and then I realize I was not recording any of the keyframes. It sucks. At any rate, make sure you have that on. And basically repeat the process for each one of the fingers. Just, track where they are. Sometimes there will be a lot of motion and you have to go frame by frame, or sometimes it won't be moving at all and you can go like 5 frames. What it comes down to is, does it look like it's tracked to the finger? If it looks like it, then good job. That's what you need to do. It's your decision. Like right here, there's a lot of movement, so I go back and trace it. That right here, not where I want it to be. But this is all the boring stuff that you have to do on your own. I've told you how to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip through for the rest of this. Okay, so now that I've gone and animated each one and labeled each one, so I got the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and pinky finger, by hitting U to bring up the keyframes. You can see how I animated each one to track the fingers where they are positioned. You'll notice here, especially on the pinky, if I solo it along with footage, it goes behind, I think that's the ring finger right there, and I just stop it at the ring finger because this next step we're gonna basically cut out a copy of the hand, basically make a mat here so that all the lightning goes underneath the primary thing that's on top, which is the forefinger and the thumb and palm area. So we're going to put that underneath it. How are we going to do that? How I did it and how I prefer to do it is literally just duplicating the bottom layer. Let's go ahead and unsolo these so it looks crazy again. Duplicate this bottom layer and bring it up top. So, initially the lightning goes away. But what I did was I just keyframed a little mask around the hand and forefinger. Go ahead and turn all these off so you can see where you're cutting. And if you download the project file, I do include an actual video clip of the hand itself. So, and that's what I'm going to continue using. But essentially, it ends up looking something along the lines of that. and then you can animate this however you want. Go frame by frame with the masks by hitting MM on the keyboard and bring up the path and keyframe the path. So this is even more grueling than the last part. Hit V to get back to your cursor. It's literally just, this you almost do have to go frame by frame, just changing each and every, if I can, there you go, every value like this to properly match up against the hand. It's just an extra step to take that makes things look better. You don't have to do it, especially if you say have your hand facing with the palm towards the camera, then there's nothing, occluding it, so there's nothing to mask out. But in this case, it does, so it makes it look more like it's contained inside of the hand region. I'll go ahead and delete this and bring in the video I have already pre-created. And you can see it matches up. So this is essentially the effect you're going to make. If you can solo it, this is what I did. Ignore the thing up here, that's just part of the masking that I just moved off to the side here at the beginning because I didn't need it until I need right here when the thumb comes out. Just one of those things. So, assuming you can do that, it's just, like I said, one of those time-consuming things. We'll go on to the next part, which is making the light and then the light reflections and the shine on the leg. So, what we do here is, these are all set to add, don't forget. We're going to take the first one, hold down Shift and select the last one, hold down Control-Shift-C. Or, you can go ahead and hit Composition, and, Pre-Compose, yeah. So it's under Layer, then Pre-Compose. I always just do the Control-Shift-C. So let's select these, Control-Shift-C to pre-compose it, and it'll put it in its own little comp area that you can, put effects with and duplicate effects much more easily. So I'm going to name this Lightning. Make sure you put this back to add. Alright, so we have our layer here, and let's go ahead and go over to the Effects and Presets panel and hit Fast Blur. I'm going to blur it up, and yeah, it's going to seem like, why should we blur it? We want to be able to see it. But if you blur it out like this, it's a lot like the lightsaber effect. It makes the shine, the glow area. And the more you blur it, the more I'm gesturing with my hands pointing at the screen. You can't see that, silly me. The more that it shines, essentially. So now that you've had this, make sure you deselect the effect itself and select the footage and hit Control D to duplicate the layer. Do it like 3 or 4 times. I like to have, I think, 3 copies of it, 4 copies, maybe one more. You could always delete copies later. So the first one, put it on 0. The next one, go ahead and put this at, say 20. Then the next one, put it at 80. And this is where you can have fun. This is the creative part that's always really cool. Put this at 200. 200, enter. There we go. And yeah, this one let's just not use. So, in my opinion, this doesn't look very good right now. It's a little too shiny. So, how did I fix this? Maybe put this at 40. Put this at 120. As you can see, it's a little bright. It's a little. I'd like to have a little bit more details. So maybe take away the 40, or just increase the 40 and take away the 80. That looks decent. That's not even what I'm using. So let's duplicate that last one and not that one. Duplicate the last layer. Put this upwards of let's put this at 300. Just so you have a nice little glow going on now. You could use the glow, but I think it just overblows it. And you can kind of see right here, this is a little too much, so I'm going to actually take away that last bit there, because you can see the line that I drew with the hand. So there you go. This is the essence of the effect. There's one last thing that, actually a couple last things we're going to do. We need to do the reflections of light off the leg. So, You could go ahead and do what I did with the hand by, masking out the hand and just keyframing the mask frame by frame. But, if you can get away with not doing it, good, do it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit layer and make a new null object. And so here we're going to track our footage. We're going to select this, and then for the track, I'm going to hit track motion. Hopefully you at least already have a decent idea of how to track the motion, but essentially we're just gonna, just position. I don't have it rotating much, so we're gonna just track this little point on the leg, because you can see that this is handheld video. So if we make a mask surrounding the leg area, it'll move, or you can just go ahead and track it. So let's go to the first frame. I felt that this little red spot was a good place to track the motion, and then hit track motion. It goes through, tracks it. All right, and I think because I already added the null, it automatically selected it, but it's always good practice to make sure. So yeah, null one selected, and hit apply. And I'll ask you if you, X and Y. Yes. So now we have this null object that is tracked to the legs there. Go ahead and delete. Okay, so the next step, we're going to create a new adjustment layer, or just Control-Alt-Y, and we're going to add a levels to this adjustment layer. And first off, make sure you make the adjustment layer larger, just because it doesn't hurt. Just kind of base it around the leg. Make the whole image super bright. You can see kind of the effect we're going to go for. But just first, let's go ahead and outline the legs here, or the leg / shorts. And this you kind of want to be detailed with, but again, the more effort you put into it, the better it will look in the end. So I've put hours into this stuff before, and sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you can get away with not really doing much. It really is all up to you, and that's the beauty about it. Make sure you kind of extend out a little bit at the end. So then you have that. Okay. Hit MM on the keyboard to bring up the mask. Let's add, I'd put the feather at about 6 or so. And we're going to make one more mask. This is going to be a subtraction mask. And this is where the light kind of cuts out, because, light can't wrap around a cylinder, if you consider a leg a cylinder. So just kind of do something along the lines of that. Then, just outwards. Go down to the second mask. I'm going to label this subtract. Wow, come on. Really? Masks. Second mask. Okay, maybe I won't rename it. But anyway, we are going to put it to subtract. So if we blast out the effect, you'll see the effect right away. You can see how it's just kind of really bright here, and we're going to feather it out incredibly right here. I'd put the feather at about 200-ish. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a wiggle to the expansion. Make it look like it's, shining bright and not bright. But first, let's actually get the effect correct. So this looks terrible. Let's take that down just a notch. Let's go to the blue channel and make it bluer. Oh, right. I forgot to actually connect this. So we have our null object and we have our adjustment layer. Parent it to the null object. Make sure you're on the corresponding frame too. So that way, it tracks with your footage. Okay. Kind of see that the glows a little bit here. If you don't like that, you could just go to the expansion, maybe take that down -2. Does that do a good job? -1 will probably be good enough. -1. Yeah, that'll work. So now that we have essentially the magnitude of the effect we want, we will animate this mask here now. And how will we do that? We will hold down Alt and hit the keyframe, the little timer here for the mask expansion. So we're going to change this and just add a wiggle. So 5 times per second at a magnitude of 80. Let's put that 80 pixels. And hit enter on the keypad to exit out of it. And if all went to plan, we should get a flicker. Fantastic, look at that. Yay for flicker. And that's pretty much the end of this effect. As you can see, we have the lightning, we have the occluded hand layer, and we have the different layers of electricity. And our footage at the bottom. And there is one more thing that I will do. If you have optical flares, I think it is magnificent. It works great for things like this. It adds just an extra layer of shine and brightness to it that you might not be able to achieve otherwise. But this is the final effect right here. But I'm going to go ahead and throw on the optical flare. So Control Y to make a new solid and make it black, and then effects and presets, optical flares. Go ahead and over original and hit add. So what I've noticed for this electricity kind of effect is you don't want a spot. Like how you can see here, there's a spot here. We don't want that. Well, I'm going to take the brightness down to 30 first off. And go to the options and make this right size. So anytime you see a glint or a glow, like for instance, and you can solo it to see it. See, we don't want these spot glowing parts, so go ahead and hide it. See, hide this glint. And it's up to you whether you want the starlit spike ball here. So in the end, we don't want that stuff. We can go ahead and add, another one of these. Just kind of want some lines and cool stuff like that. Maybe a caustic or a hoop. And this is where you have fun. Just throwing on random things. I like these anamorphic stripes. Maybe add 2 of those at different sizes and different brightness. Remember, try not to use anything that has a center point that really, shows this is exactly where it is, because we're not going to animate it at all. It's just going to sit there and we're going to have a flicker a little bit. So as the shot is moving, we don't want that shot to give it away that it's not moving. Add a couple of these maybe. Just add some brightness to it. One of these. Honestly, I'm just clicking almost at random. But that's the fun part about this. Add one of those, yeah. But you get the idea, right? We're just going to throw some stuff on here, some stripes and whatnot, and if we hit OK, we can see it. We could put our position right here, and I like to put the center position off a little bit, even though that's not, as far as physics go, correct. And then we see that. And if you really want to kind of track it to where the hand is, as long as your hand isn't moving too much, you could either make another null and track it to the null, or you can keyframe the position, which is I think what I did. I just went along, say it's here now, over here, it's here now, over here, it's over here now, and you get the idea. You could animate it that way. And I didn't keyframe the position. I said that earlier this tutorial, and look what I did. Alright, yeah, my roommates are talking now, so hopefully you don't hear them too loudly. But in the end, this is the final effect. I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of get this going. Maybe this a little more. Sweet. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. This is a tutorial for AE Tuts Plus. Probably day 1, maybe day 2, I don't know. But this is a series. We've got another few days left of all the other effects in the video, Elemental Combat, that I made. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Later.